First design. When Masashi Kishimoto first started designing the Third Hokage, he actually had a totally wild idea. Instead of making Hiruzen a regular person, he wanted to make him a talking dog. Yep, for real. At one point, Hiruzen was almost a ninken, but after some serious discussions with his editors, Kishimoto realized that the idea was just way too weird. They were worried that having a dog as the top leader of a ninja village might feel too silly or make the story less serious. So in the end, they decided to go with a human character instead, the Hiruzen we all know today. Still, Kishimoto didn't completely give up on the talking dog idea. He cleverly brought it back later through side characters, especially Pakun, the little dog from Kakashi's ninken team. Pakun can talk like a regular person, has his own funny personality, and totally adds charm to the series. Looking back, changing Hiruzen into a human was probably the smart move. If he had been a dog, the entire vibe of the story might have changed. We probably wouldn't have felt the same emotional weight in his relationship with Asuma, or the deep impact of his sacrifice during the Konoha invasion arc. 4-war veteran. Hiruzen Sarutobi is one of the very few ninjas who can proudly say he lived through all 4 great ninja wars. That's something almost nobody else can claim. His time as Hokage was honestly pretty unique. He became the third Hokage right before his teacher, Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage, sacrificed himself during the first Great Ninja War. At that time, Hiruzen was still really young, but Tobirama saw his potential and trusted him to lead the village. Hiruzen also lived through the second Ninja War, which is when his own students, the legendary Sannin, rose to fame. That alone says a lot about how long and deeply connected he was to ninja history. During the third Great Ninja War, the spotlight shifted to Minato Namikaze, also known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha. He totally stole the show in that war. Afterward, Hiruzen chose Minato to be the 4th Hokage, officially passing the torch and retiring. But fate had other plans. Minato died while sealing the Nine Tails, and that tragedy forced Hiruzen to come out of retirement and take back the role of Hokage. And even in the 4th Great Ninja War, long after his death, Hiruzen returned, summoned back by the reanimation jutsu to fight alongside the other Hokage. The fact that he played a role in all 4 wars, whether alive or revived, is just proof that Hiruzen was absolutely one of the greatest ninjas in history, rooted in power. Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't have any special Kekkei Genkai or rare bloodline powers, so a lot of people just assume he came from a normal background, but actually, he was born into one of Konoha's most respected clans. The Sarutobi clan was seriously powerful, one of the strongest clans back in the Warring States era. They were there from the very beginning, helping to found the Hidden Leaf Village alongside the Senju and Uchiha clans. Even Hashirama and Madara were totally surprised when the Sarutobi joined the alliance to build Konoha. Hiruzen's father was Sasuke Sarutobi, a legendary ninja known for his amazing skills. His reputation was so huge that even generations later, people still remembered his name. That raw talent was definitely passed down to Hiruzen, who could use all 5 chakra natures, a crazy rare feat. Because of his deep knowledge of every kind of ninjutsu, people started calling him the Professor. Sasuke Sarutobi's name was so respected that when Mikoto Uchiha gave birth to her son, she named him Sasuke in honor of the legendary ninja. She even told Biwako Sarutobi and Kushina Uzumaki that she hoped her son would grow up to be just as skilled. The Sarutobi clan is especially famous for their fire-style jutsu, their masters of fire release, second only to the Uchiha when it comes to fire techniques. And don't let their low profile fool you. They're actually a pretty big clan. In the 4th Great Ninja War, the group of ninjas used the fire release, Great Flame technique to dry up the quicklime that was trapping the 10 tails. Yeah, they were Sarutobi too. Student of legends. Hiruzen Sarutobi was one of the very few ninjas in history who got to learn directly from both the first and second Hokage. That's something super rare, even for top-tier shinobi. He was originally part of Tobirama Senju's team, the second Hokage. Tobirama wasn't just his teacher, he was the one who shaped Hiruzen's entire mindset and fighting style. Tobirama saw huge potential in the young Hiruzen and trusted him enough to pass on the future of the Hidden Leaf Village. And when Hiruzen was still just a kid, way back when both Tobirama and Hashirama, the first Hokage, were still alive, He was also personally trained by Hashirama himself. Yep, the god of shinobi, the founder of Konoha, the man strong enough to literally take down the Nine Tails. Getting trained by both Senju brothers gave Hiruzen a rock-solid foundation. From Hashirama, he learned the philosophy of the will of fire, the idea that every villager is like family, and protecting them is your duty. From Tobirama, he picked up sharp tactical thinking and amazing analysis skills. So yeah, if you ever look at Hiruzen's stats in the databook, you'll instantly see what it means to be the student of two legendary Hokage. Massive chakra reversal. When Hiruzen Sarutobi was young, his chakra levels were absolutely massive. Back in his prime, he had so much chakra that he could keep using high-level jutsu non-stop without needing to rest. That's one of the big reasons why he was able to learn and master most of the jutsu in Konoha. With that much chakra, he could totally experiment with tons of different techniques and keep improving them. But like every ninja, time eventually took its toll. As he got older, his chakra naturally started to decrease. His body wasn't as strong as before, so it became way harder to store and use chakra efficiently. Still, even in his old age, Hiruzen's power was honestly mind-blowing. Just by releasing chakra, he could literally crack solid rock with the pressure alone. That shows his chakra foundation was still far above that of an average ninja. In his final battle against Orochimaru, even though his body was weak, Hiruzen still managed to use insanely powerful jutsu, like summoning the Reaper Death Seal to seal away both of his former teachers and the arms of his own student who betrayed him. Monkey King Ally. Enma, the Monkey King among all summoning animals, was a very special partner to Hiruzen Sarutobi. The first thing you'll probably notice about Enma is that he wears a Konoha headband. That's not just for show. It means Enma wasn't just a regular summon. He actually considered himself a ninja of the Hidden Leaf. In fact, summoning animals like Enma, Kakashi's Pakun, or Guy's Tortoise Ningame all have something in common. They can talk like humans, fight like real shinobi, and they all wear headbands, showing real loyalty to Konoha. Unlike normal summoning beasts who just follow a contract, Enma personally chose to see himself as a full member of the village. He could speak fluently, had super sharp intelligence, and was totally experienced in battle. Honestly, he probably had way more combat experience than a lot of younger ninja. On top of that, Enma had a super unique ability. He could transform into the adamantine staff, a super hard weapon that Hiruzen loved using in close combat. That staff wasn't just durable, it was nearly indestructible. And here's something even cooler. The Sarutobi clan's bond with monkeys seems to be a family tradition. Hiruzen's grandson, Konohamaru, can summon a monkey spirit named Enra, another powerful partner. This isn't just a coincidence. It's probably a special tradition that's been passed down through generations. Longest lasting leadership. Hiruzen Sarutobi's time as Hokage is actually one of the most peaceful eras in the history of the Hidden Leaf Village. Compared to the other Hokage, his leadership lasted much longer and way more stable. Let's take a look. Hashirama, the first Hokage, helped create Konoha, but sadly, his time in power was pretty short. He died during the First Great Ninja War. Then came Tobirama, the second Hokage. He didn't lead for long either. He sacrificed himself during that same war. Minato, the fourth Hokage, had an extremely short term. He died the night the Nine Tails attacked the village. Tsunade took over during a major crisis, and even though she was strong, she had to deal with back-to-back disasters. Kakashi had a short period of peace, but soon passed the title to Naruto, who faced brand new threats in the Boruto era. Now, here's where Hiruzen stands out. He ruled Konoha in two separate terms, and together, they added up to decades of leadership. Right after the First Ninja War, Hiruzen helped build a strong and very stable Hidden Leaf. And even after Minato's death, when he came out of retirement, he still managed to keep the village together through big challenges like the Uchiha massacre and the rise of criminal groups like the Akatsuki. What really helped was his calm and diplomatic nature. He always tried to find peaceful solutions first and only used force when absolutely necessary. He knew how to balance power, manage different clans, and avoid starting wars unless there was no other choice. Mercy's hidden price. Hiruzen Sarutobi's kind and gentle personality was honestly a double-edged sword during his time as Hokage. Many people really admired his compassion and patience, but the Hidden Leaf Council often got frustrated with him. Danzo, along with other council members like Homura and Koharu, would regularly complain that Hiruzen was too soft and not decisive enough in tough situations. They believed a Hokage should be more strict, more willing to make hard sacrifices for the greater good. Because of this, they often stepped in and tried to adjust his decisions, or even override them. One of the clearest examples was the Uchiha situation. Hiruzen genuinely wanted to make peace through dialogue, hoping to avoid conflict with the Uchiha clan. But under heavy pressure from Danzo and the council, the Uchiha massacre still happened. That tragic decision later led to massive consequences. Another example was Orochimaru. Even after discovering that his former student was doing terrifying experiments on people, Hiruzen just couldn't bring himself to kill him. Instead, he let Orochimaru escape. Those choices ended up creating huge problems. Orochimaru became one of Konoha's most dangerous enemies, and the Uchiha massacre gave birth to Sasuke's revenge and even Madara's return, both of which threatened the entire village. So, yeah, Hiruzen's kindness was both his greatest strength and, maybe, his biggest weakness as a leader. Choosing the successor. Hiruzen Sarutobi almost chose Orochimaru to become the next Hokage. At the time, Orochimaru was considered one of the top 3 ninja of his generation, alongside Jiraiya and Tsunade, the legendary Sannin. Hiruzen spent a lot of time and energy training Orochimaru. He truly hoped this brilliant student would one day take over as Hokage. In terms of skill, Orochimaru definitely had what it took. He was smart, powerful, and even had strong leadership abilities. He was, without question, a genius. But there was one thing Hiruzen couldn't pass down to him: the will of fire. This philosophy says that Konoha is one big family, and the Hokage must be willing to sacrifice everything to protect the village. Orochimaru, sadly, didn't believe in that. Instead, he cared more about personal power than helping others. He wanted immortality, knowledge, and control, not to serve or protect the people of Konoha. Once Hiruzen realized this, he knew he had to choose someone else. So who were the options back then? There was Jiraiya. There was Fugaku Uchiha, the leader of the Uchiha clan. And there was Minato Namikaze, Jiraiya's student. In the end, Hiruzen chose Minato. Minato had already proven himself many times during the Third Great Ninja War. He earned the nickname Yellow Flash of the Leaf for a reason. But more importantly, Minato had everything a Hokage needs: talent, kindness, a strong sense of sacrifice, and a deep understanding of the will of fire. Hiruzen fully supported Minato's rise to Hokage. He even assigned Anbu to secretly protect Kushina during childbirth. Choosing Minato over Fugaku was the right decision for the village, but unfortunately, it also made the Uchiha clan feel even more left out and bitter toward the village. Shadows of leadership. The relationship between Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo was honestly really complicated. Both of them were students of the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. But their views on leadership were completely different. Hiruzen believed in kindness, trust, and forgiveness. Danzo, on the other hand, believed that sometimes you had to use extreme measures to protect the village, no matter the cost. When Hiruzen gave Danzo permission to create Root, a special division inside the Anbu, he thought it would just be an extra unit to help with security. He trusted Danzo, not just as an ally, but as an old friend and comrade. Even though they disagreed on many things, Hiruzen truly believed Danzo still had Konoha's best interest at heart. But what Hiruzen didn't know was that Danzo was secretly using Root to carry out dark and dangerous missions. He experimented on people, implanted cells from Hashirama Senju, and even collected multiple Sharingan eyes. Worse, Danzo manipulated major events in the village, many of which Hiruzen had no clue about. Root, in truth, was never really under Hiruzen's control. At one point, Danzo even tried to have Hiruzen assassinated. The attempt failed, and shockingly, Hiruzen never punished him. He just let it go. That kind of blind trust and soft-heartedness turned into a huge weakness. If Hiruzen had been more strict or realized Danzo's true nature earlier, many tragedies might have been avoided. This whole situation proves one harsh truth. Even the strongest leader can fall if they trust the wrong person too much. Forgotten Anbu-san. Hiruzen Sarutobi had 2 sons, but their lives turned out completely different. The one most fans know is Asuma Sarutobi, a talented jonin who became a member of the 12 Guardian Ninja, the elite group that protected the daimyo. But Hiruzen's other son? He's barely mentioned in the series. All we know is that he served in the Anbu Black Ops. He doesn't appear in Boruto, so many fans believe he probably passed away. And honestly, it wouldn't be surprising. Being in the Anbu is extremely dangerous, and most of its members don't live very long. The Anbu handle the most secretive and deadly missions in the village. They're the ones doing assassinations, spying, and facing some of the scariest enemies out there. They live in the shadows, always hidden, never praised, and constantly risking their lives. Unlike versatile ninjas like Kakashi or Asuma, who can adapt to many situations, Anbu operatives are usually trained to be specialists. Some are amazing at assassination. Others are top-tier scouts. But they're not always well-rounded fighters, so when something unexpected happens outside their area of expertise, they can get hurt or worse very easily. And the saddest part? When an Anbu member dies, the village almost never talks about it. Their missions are top secret, and even their deaths are kept hidden from the public. So yeah, that's probably why no one really remembers Hiruzen's second son. Incomplete protection given. Before Minato Namikaze died, he had one simple wish. He wanted his son, Naruto, to be seen as a hero, the child who saved the hidden leaf from the Nine Tails. Not as a monster, not as a burden. Minato truly believed the village would understand his sacrifice and treat Naruto with respect. But sadly, things didn't go that way. Hiruzen Sarutobi, who promised to look after Naruto, tried his best to honor Minato's wish. But in the end, he failed. No one knew Naruto was a hero. They only knew he was the Jinchuriki, the kid carrying the same beast that destroyed their village. And here's where things get even more ironic. To protect Naruto, Hiruzen gave him the last name Uzumaki instead of Namikaze. He hoped this would hide Naruto's connection to the Fourth Hokage, just in case Minato's enemies ever tried to hurt his son for revenge. But what Hiruzen didn't consider was that the Uzumaki clan had a dark history of its own. The Uzumaki were once incredibly powerful, known for their strong life force, massive chakra, and mastery of sealing techniques. They were so dangerous that other villages teamed up just to wipe them out. People even hunted down red-haired Uzumaki survivors because of their value. So, by giving Naruto the Uzumaki name, Hiruzen may have accidentally put him in even more danger than if he'd used Namikaze. Luckily, Naruto didn't have red hair like most Uzumaki, which helped hide his bloodline. But Hiruzen still said no. He decided Naruto should carry his mother's name, no matter what, planting Naruto's hope. But hey, Hiruzen didn't get everything wrong. A lot of people don't know this, but he was the one who arranged for Iruka to look after Naruto. At the time, Naruto was just a small kid, totally isolated and hated by almost everyone in the village. Because he had the Nine Tails sealed inside him, people saw him as a dangerous monster, not a child. Hiruzen fully understood the danger of letting Naruto grow up alone and full of anger. He knew that without love or guidance, Naruto could someday become a real threat to Konoha. So he chose Iruka, a ninja who had also lost his parents during the Nine Tails attack. At first, even Iruka had his own bias against Naruto. But Hiruzen talked to him, convinced him, and slowly helped Iruka see the truth. that Naruto was just a lonely kid who wanted love. Nothing more, nothing less. Thanks to Iruka, Naruto finally felt the warmth of a real human connection. Iruka wasn't just a teacher, he became like a big brother, maybe even a father figure. Because of that bond, Naruto realized that not everyone hated him. He started to believe that he could be accepted, and that maybe, just maybe, he belonged. Also, don't forget that Hiruzen was the first Hokage role model in Naruto's eyes. Sharingan Bank. Obito maintained a private reserve of Sharingan eyes, hidden from the world and accessible only to him. These eyes were collected during and after the Uchiha massacre, most likely extracted from the bodies of the clan's elite members. Stored within his Kamui dimension, this gruesome stockpile served as a ready supply for future use, particularly for forbidden techniques like Izanagi. Izanagi allows the user to alter reality, escaping death, or reversing fatal outcomes. Its cost, however, is the permanent loss of the eye that casts it. For most Uchiha, this makes the jutsu a last resort. For Obito, it was a calculated risk with minimal downside. After using Izanagi to survive Konan's 600 billion explosive tags, Obito immediately replaced the sacrificed eye with another from his collection, Shisui's eye. Among the many Sharingan users in Naruto's history, Shisui Uchiha possessed one of the most dangerous abilities, Kotoa Matsukami. This genjutsu allows the user to control a target's mind without them realizing it, making it ideal for political manipulation and subterfuge. Obito recognized the strategic value of this power and sought to obtain Shisui's eye for his arsenal. By the time Obito attempted to retrieve the eye, it had already been stolen by Danzo Shimura. Danzo used it to influence political decisions behind the scenes and eventually implanted it into his right eye socket. During his final battle with Sasuke, Danzo destroyed the eye before death, preventing it from falling into Obito's hands. This move ensured that Kotoa Matsukami would not be weaponized again, at least not by Obito. Imperfect Jinchuriki. Obito's transformation into the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki granted him immense power, but his control over the beast was far from complete. In contrast to Naruto's eventual perfect synchronization with Kurama, Obito's bond with the Ten-Tails remained unstable. The beast resisted his commands, and its chakra threatened to tear his body apart. His temporary mastery was achieved through a combination of Hashirama's regenerative cells and the stabilizing power of the Rinnegan. These elements prevented immediate rejection, but could not create full harmony between host and beast. Chapter 637 of the manga illustrates how Obito is nearly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of chakra surging through him. His body distorts and mutates, requiring constant regulation to prevent collapse. This weakness exposed a flaw in Obito's strategy. His reliance on artificial enhancements provided short-term control, but not true compatibility. The transformation amplified his power to divine levels, but left critical vulnerabilities beneath the surface. In battle, this made him both unstoppable and unstable. Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito's use of Kamui presents one of the most unusual anomalies in the entire Uchiha lineage. Most Mangekyo Sharingan users suffer gradual blindness the more they use their ocular powers. Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha both experienced visual deterioration as a direct result of their Mangekyo techniques. Even Kakashi, who wielded Obito's eye temporarily, suffered from significant strain. Yet Obito, the original owner, activates Kamui repeatedly without any clear sign of side effects. This contradiction has led many to speculate that the implantation of Hashirama's cells into Obito's body might be the reason. Hashirama's chakra grants enhanced vitality and regeneration. With part of his body rebuilt using Senju DNA, Obito's ocular system may have been stabilized enough to avoid typical drawbacks. Another possible explanation lies in how Obito uses Kamui. Instead of techniques that inflict massive outward strain like Amaterasu or Tsukuyomi, Kamui manipulates space-time in a fluid, internalized manner. This may distribute chakra output differently. Despite these theories, the manga never confirms why Obito avoids blindness. This omission creates a persistent plot inconsistency. In terms of combat, Kamui gives Obito intangibility for up to 5 minutes and the ability to teleport parts of his body or his entire form across dimensions. He can also send others into the Kamui space or travel between locations instantly. However, he only has access to his right eye, which limits Kamui's full potential. When paired with Kakashi during the Fourth War, the full power of both eyes becomes apparent. Alone, Obito still remains highly dangerous, but not unstoppable. Early appearances. Obito was introduced long before the audience learns who he truly is. In Chapter 16 of the original Naruto manga, a photo of Team Minato appears on Kakashi's desk. This quiet background detail shows a young boy who would later be revealed as Obito. In Chapter 122, during a flashback from the Third Hokage, Obito again appears alongside Rin and Kakashi. These early glimpses serve as breadcrumbs scattered across the story's foundation. Interestingly, Obito's design is slightly inconsistent between these cameos. His hairstyle and facial features vary, which suggests two possibilities. One, Masashi Kishimoto may have adjusted the design later as the story evolved. Two, the changes were intentional to create subtle ambiguity around his identity. This approach aligns with the layered mystery surrounding Tobi's character. For readers revisiting the manga, these cameos offer hidden significance. Databook errors. The fourth Naruto databook, which compiles character stats and information, fails to mention several of Obito's most important abilities. Notably, it omits any reference to his use of yin-yang release and sage jutsu. This is especially puzzling because Obito, as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, clearly demonstrates mastery over these advanced techniques in the manga. Yin-yang release allows the user to create truth-seeking orbs, black spheres that nullify ninjutsu and reshape reality. These orbs are shown during Obito's final transformation. Additionally, his control over nature energy while hosting the Ten Tails aligns with the attributes of Sage Jutsu. He becomes immune to most forms of attack and capable of warping the battlefield at will. These feats are consistent with 6 Paths level powers. 4 Kekkei Genkai. Obito is one of the only characters in the Naruto universe to possess 4 distinct Kekkei Genkai. Each bloodline ability enhances his power, but the combination is what sets him apart from even the most elite shinobi. His journey begins with the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, which evolves into the Mangekyo Sharingan. This grants him Kamui, a unique space-time technique that bypasses conventional combat mechanics. The Mangekyo alone already places him in the upper tier of combatants. The second Kekkei Genkai comes from Hashirama Senju cells, which are used to reconstruct Obito's damaged body. These cells grant him access to wood release, a nature transformation previously exclusive to the first Hokage. While Obito does not use wood style as often as Yamato or Hashirama, its presence strengthens his regenerative abilities and stabilizes his chakra network. It also reinforces his immunity to the typical drawbacks of Mangekyo usage. The third Kekkei Genkai enters the picture when Obito claims Nagato's Rinnegan. With this eye, he unlocks the 6 Paths techniques and gains control over life, death, and universal forces. The Rinnegan grants him access to abilities like the Outer Path and the demonic statue of the Outer Path, which are key elements in the Eye of the Moon plan. Though he only uses one Rinnegan, the increase in his overall threat level is exponential. The fourth Kekkei Genkai is rarely discussed directly, but is implied through his use of yin-yang release as the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. This hybrid transformation fuses spiritual and physical energy, allowing him to reshape matter and produce truth-seeking orbs. While not a clan-based bloodline, yin-yang release behaves as a functional Kekkei Genkai due to its exclusivity and power scaling. Mission record. Obito's official mission history as a Leaf Ninja totals 135 missions. These include 86 D rank, 24 C rank, 24 B rank, and a single A rank assignment. All of these were completed before the age of 13, before his presumed death during the Third Shinobi World War. While his early characterization paints him as clumsy and immature, this record tells a different story. It reveals consistent participation in both routine and combat-based operations. The absence of S-rank missions is expected for a ninja of his age. However, the spread of missions shows progression through increasing levels of difficulty. D-rank missions usually involve logistical support or domestic tasks. C and B rank assignments often include escort duties and engagements with enemy shinobi. Completing 24 B rank missions before adolescence places Obito in an advanced tier among young Jinin and Chunin. Personal data. Obito's personal information, even in official sources, is filled with inconsistencies. His birthday is recorded as February 10th, placing him under the Aquarius zodiac. He is said to have died at age 31. However, basic physical details such as height and weight vary depending on the source. The third databook lists his height as 5'7", the fourth as 5'10", while Studio Pierrot assigns him a height of 5'9". His weight is similarly inconsistent, fluctuating between 123 and 154 pounds. His blood type, listed as O, is among the few consistent elements. Still, this detail carries little narrative importance compared to the broader issue of identity fluidity. Prodigy by circumstance. Obito achieved notable milestones at a young age, surpassing what is normally expected of a shinobi from a support role. He became a genin at 9 years old and a chunin by 11. This alone places him ahead of many peers in the village. However, his true turning point came at age 14, when he infiltrated the Hidden Leaf, extracted the Nine Tails, and nearly destroyed the entire village. This operation was executed solo and resulted in the death of the fourth Hokage and his wife. While Obito failed to eliminate Naruto, the strategic precision of the attack showed advanced planning and control. Following this, Obito continued to operate behind the scenes, defeating S-rank shinobi like Konan and manipulating the Akatsuki into executing the Eye of the Moon plan. Uchiha Massacre. Obito's secret alliance with Itachi Uchiha was a turning point in Hidden Leaf history. At the time, tensions between the Uchiha clan and Konoha leadership had reached a breaking point. The clan, placed under surveillance and pushed to the village's outskirts, was preparing for rebellion. Sensing an imminent coup, Itachi approached Obito with an alternative, a massacre that would end the uprising before it began. In exchange for sparing his younger brother Sasuke, Obito agreed. Under the identity of Madara, he used this opportunity not just to aid Itachi's plan, but to advance his own. During the attack, Obito focused on eliminating the Uchiha police force and collecting Sharingan eyes. He left behind no witnesses and ensured the erasure of most of the clan's combat power. Posing as Madara also allowed him to deceive Itachi into thinking this was a temporary alliance built on mutual benefit, when in fact, Obito had larger ambitions. Constructed persona. The persona of Tobi was more than a cover. It was a fully designed psychological mask. Data Book 4 confirms that Tobi's body was composed partly from white Zetsu material. This allowed Obito to use organic camouflage, giving his body enhanced durability and flexibility. The masks he wore, also made from Zetsu biomass, became symbols of his evolving identity. Tobi's personality is drastically different from Obito's true self. He adopts a clumsy, childlike behavior marked by erratic speech and exaggerated movements. This performance creates the illusion of harmlessness, allowing him to infiltrate Akatsuki without suspicion. Even powerful members like Deidara and Sasori underestimate him due to this act. The contrast between Tobi and Obito creates a useful dichotomy. While Obito is methodical, silent, and driven by ideology, Tobi is erratic and superficial. This dual identity enables him to control information and remain hidden in plain sight. The Tobi mask isn't just literal, it's psychological. By hiding behind absurdity, Obito conceals his real motives, delays discovery, and steers Akatsuki toward his own agenda without exposing his connection to Madara. Evolution of masks. Obito's masks change over time, each corresponding to a different phase in his development. The first major mask, the one used during the Ninetales attack, is plain orange with a central swirl. This early version corresponds to the beginning of his deception campaign. It represents chaos, misdirection, and the start of his detachment from his former identity. As his role in Akatsuki expands, Obito upgrades to a new spiral mask with a sharper design. This iteration emphasizes symmetry and control. Its design still reflects Kamui's vortex, but in a more focused structure. At this stage, Obito is no longer hiding behind a persona. He is beginning to direct events with precision. The mask signals a transition from chaotic vengeance to calculated strategy. The final and most significant mask appears during the Fourth Shinobi World War. This white mask features a ripple-like design with 3 tomoe, referencing both the Rinnegan and the infinite Tsukuyomi. Its pale color and symmetrical form reflect his complete shift into a would-be divine figure. The tomoe suggest control, surveillance, and unification, all core themes in his endgame. Genjutsu parallel. In one of the Naruto movies, Obito uses a genjutsu technique that mimics Itachi's Tsukuyomi. This illusion traps Naruto and Sakura in a reality where their personalities are inverted. While not part of the main storyline, the scene highlights Obito's genjutsu proficiency and his psychological approach to warfare. The method of execution relies on altering perception rather than brute force. This genjutsu diverges from Tsukuyomi in mechanics, but shares the core theme of mental imprisonment. Rather than overwhelming the target with torture or time dilation, Obito crafts an alternate reality that disorients the victims by distorting their own identities. This level of manipulation requires deep understanding of human behavior and mental structure. Though it is non-canon, the technique fits within Obito's established skill set. He is already capable of large-scale illusions through the Eye of the Moon plan. He also shows advanced use of Sharingan abilities during battles with Conan and Naruto. The movie-exclusive technique expands the narrative potential of his powers and reinforces the idea that Genjutsu was one of his underused strengths. Childhood and dream. Obito's early years are marked by social isolation. Orphaned and raised by his grandmother, he lacked the traditional support system most Konoha children had. His behavior during missions, being late, getting distracted, seeking attention, was often dismissed as immature. However, this pattern suggests a consistent search for validation in a world that largely ignored him. Obito's dream of becoming Hokage was not based on political ambition. It was rooted in the desire to be acknowledged. His rivalry with Kakashi, a prodigy celebrated from a young age, only widened the emotional gap. Obito's determination to outshine Kakashi was more about self-worth than competition. This context gives weight to his ambitions. They were not unrealistic. They were compensatory responses to years of neglect. It frames his descent into villainy not as a spontaneous shift, but as the result of long-term emotional neglect followed by strategic exploitation. His early desire to be Hokage becomes a thematic mirror to Naruto's path, showing how two similar beginnings can lead to opposite outcomes depending on the influences that follow. Rivalry and bond. Kakashi Hatake is one of the few non-Uchiha to successfully wield the Mangekyo Sharingan. This eye, gifted to him by Obito, retained its original chakra signature. Normally, the activation of Mangekyo requires direct connection to an Uchiha's brain, where the chakra circulatory system is specifically adapted for dojutsu. Kakashi's use of Kamui violates that expectation. The anomaly can be explained through residual chakra. Because Obito's chakra was embedded in the eye at the time of transfer, it continued to respond as if it were still part of an Uchiha host. This allows Kakashi to use Kamui, though at a significantly higher chakra cost. The strain on his body is noticeable, limiting his usage and forcing strategic conservation. Obito's relationship with Kakashi was shaped by rivalry, but anchored by deeper loyalty. From their time on Team Minato, Obito viewed Kakashi as both a competitor and a benchmark. Kakashi's early promotion to Jonin and reputation as a genius fueled Obito's determination to improve. This dynamic, built on perceived imbalance, pushed Obito to train harder despite his natural shortcomings. Their rivalry peaked during the Canopy Bridge mission. In that critical moment, Obito prioritized teamwork over personal pride. When Kakashi was injured and trapped, Obito acted without hesitation. The rescue cost him his life, or so it seemed. Before being crushed by the cave-in, he entrusted his left Sharingan to Kakashi. This gift became the foundation of Kakashi's identity as the copy ninja, shaping both of their legacies. Obito returned from the shadows and ultimately chose to support Kakashi in battle once more. In the Fourth Shinobi World War, from Beyond Death, Obito gave Kakashi access to both Mangekyo Sharingan. This allowed Kakashi to summon a perfect Susanoo, a technique normally reserved for elite Uchiha. The gesture was more than practical. It reaffirmed the enduring link between them. What began as rivalry matured into mutual respect, formed through conflict, sacrifice, and time. Fall into darkness. Obito's love for Rin Nohara is one of the emotional triggers behind his transformation. This love, while unreciprocated romantically, was genuine and pure. Rin represented everything Obito believed in: connection, purpose, and hope. Her presence kept his dream of becoming Hokage alive. But that stability collapsed during the Third Shinobi World War. In a manipulated sequence of events, Madara orchestrated Rin's death. She was made into a Jinchuriki, meant to unleash the three tails inside Konoha. Kakashi, unaware of the full context, was forced to kill her. Obito witnessed the act from afar, arriving just seconds too late. The trauma of seeing Rin die at Kakashi's hand, combined with his inability to stop it, shattered his moral framework. Reconstruction and body enhancement. After his near-death experience during the cave collapse, Obito was saved by White Zetsu under Madara's command. His right side was severely damaged, and without intervention, he would have died. Madara implanted him with synthetic tissue made from Hashirama's cells, creating a biomechanical hybrid body. This artificial repair allowed Obito not only to survive, but also to gain access to new powers. Hashirama cells granted him enhanced physical recovery and access to wood release. While he did not use wood style extensively in combat, its regenerative properties stabilized his body, making it resistant to damage and chakra strain. More importantly, It allowed his Sharingan to function at maximum capacity without degradation. The process transformed Obito into something beyond human. With one side of his body composed of white Zetsu material and Senju DNA, he became a vessel engineered to carry out Madara's long-term plan. Manipulation. Operating under the alias of Tobi and later posing as Madara Uchiha, Obito gradually took control of the Akatsuki. The organization, originally formed by Yahiko to promote peace, was hijacked and repurposed. Obito aligned himself with Nagato and convinced him to adopt a more aggressive strategy. With minimal direct intervention, he turned the group into a mercenary force capable of destabilizing entire nations. Obito's influence extended beyond Akatsuki. Using his Sharingan, he placed the fourth Mizukage, Yagura, under Genjutsu. This manipulation transformed the Hidden Mist into the Bloody Mist, a regime known for its brutal graduation exams and internal oppression. By turning a Kekkei into a puppet, Obito gained control over a major village without a single battle. The chaos produced by this leadership destabilization allowed Akatsuki to operate freely and unchallenged across multiple territories. Black Zetsu's betrayal. Obito's control unraveled when Black Zetsu revealed its true allegiance. Although Obito believed he was using Zetsu as a subordinate, the truth was reversed. Black Zetsu had been manipulating him for decades, following Kaguya Otsutsuki's will. Its goal was never to aid Obito or even Madara, but to orchestrate Kaguya's resurrection. At a critical moment, Black Zetsu betrayed Obito by taking control of his body and using it to transfer the Rinnegan to Madara. After Madara's revival, the same tactic was used to forcefully trigger Kaguya's return. Obito lost his Rinnegan and was left physically weakened and politically irrelevant. Reunion with Rin. After death, Obito reunites with Rin in a liminal realm resembling the afterlife. He appears as his teenage self, a visual reset that symbolizes purification. In this form, he is no longer masked, enhanced, or weaponized. His identity is returned to its original state, unburdened by ideology or war. This reunion closes the emotional arc that began with Rin's death. Their meeting is not a romantic resolution, but a narrative conclusion. Rin represents the emotional core that guided and corrupted Obito. Her presence at the end validates his return to his original values.